That is an overhead projector. In fact, that one was pulled out of the Museum of Old School Stuff and brought to this school as a representation of how old that was. In fact, we even have an instructor at Bellevue College who still uses cellophane slides.
My English teacher.
Here, okay, which is funny because the first day I got there and they switched everything, she's like, "Where's my overhead projector?" And I said, "Probably in the trash." She said, "What am I supposed to do?" And I said, "Do you have a white sheet of paper?" And she says, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, this thing right here is called a document camera. And you push a button and it turns on and puts your documents on the screen. But they're clear." And I said, "But that's what the white piece of paper is for." And it was like, I don't know, like stars collided for her. She's like, "Really? A white piece of paper?" It was pretty awesome to see a dinosaur like that actually turn into something that's nowadays. So, yeah, if you do have an English teacher and your English teacher does still use a projector like that, they can use the dock camera. All you have to do is stick a white sheet of paper under your cellophane. I love that, cellophane. And then you know what they used? Dry erase old school pens on it. Yeah. So pretty amazing. I mean, pretty soon we're going to open up the school of museum of old school stuff here, and you guys can actually pay $5 to go around and see. It's crazy. We're going to have books in it. It's so awesome. Like there'll be a book in the museum, so you can go in and go, "Wow, that was a book? Oh my gosh. Never seen one of those before, a book." Yeah. They'll have index cards. You guys remember those? They were in a library and you flipped through them and they told you what the book and the author was and where to find it on the shelves. I know that's a little old school, but yeah, pretty crazy. Well, new school, well, here we go. And what's funny is that even new school doesn't work as well because this computer should have PowerPoint on it without internet and it doesn't. So we almost literally had to go way back when. Me like doing characters and drawing on the board and everything would have been weird. Now, what is the significance? What is the significance of the way this muscle is wrapped around this heart? What is the significance? And you can show me, you can do like hand puppets and stuff, like, whatever. But what is the significance of the way that this muscle is wrapped around the heart? Right there. Adam, go ahead. There we go. Squeeze, squeeze. Notice how it's wrapped around it. Okay? It's squeezing up at the top and it's squeezing at the bottom. Now, the crazy thing is this wonderful thing called gravity. Gravity. You guys know about gravity, right? It's kind of a weird thing. Kind of pulls on you. That's why an apple can fall from a tree and hit a guy in the head. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Gravity. And unbelievably, up here in these little guys, the atria, okay, they actually don't pump that hard. They don't have a lot of pumping action. So unbelievably, 80% of the blood moves from the atria to the ventricles via gravity. 80% moves from the atrium to the ventricle via gravity. Gravity lets it flow down, yes.
Would it be upside down for a while?
Won't affect it. Your head will swell, but the heart still keeps doing because it's going to pump. And because it's a filling mechanism, so even hanging upside down, it's still going to fill because there's circular pressure. Besides, when you're hanging upside down, and this is a good question, when you're hanging upside down, do you increase or decrease your breathing? Are you a bat? I knew there was something interesting about you. The turtleneck on. You increase. You increase. And the reason why you increase is because you need to circulate blood. And unbelievably, in the venous return side, there's no pressure. So literally breathing and muscle squeezing is what returns it. So yeah, when you're hanging upside down, you're actually gonna breathe a little bit more. Okay? And it's the same way that our stomach works. You hang upside down and your stomach keeps working. Okay, so cardiac muscle tissue. Well, we know all of this. This is not new, okay? This is something we already know. So just make sure you refresh your memory about the cardiac muscle, desmosomes, gap junctions, okay? There's a good image of it. So cardiac muscle, it's branched. You guys remember that? Branched? That sounds like a test question. It's branched. Yeah, so, and this shows you the Z-lines, the gap junctions, how they communicate, how they hold together. So this is all information that we've already learned. Intercalated discs, not always visual or visible, but the slide that I had for you guys had a great representation. You guys remember that? Looking at that slide and I pointed to it and said, what are these? And half of you missed the question. You're looking at me like, did I? All right, characteristics of cardiac muscle cells. Well, this is just going through all of that, and this is repetition, so I don't need to go over it. You should already know this. Same with this. You should already know this. Okay, now they're talking about metabolism. Well, it's aerobic, but we do have a little... It's actually what this is doing is a compare and contrast against cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle, which we already know because we went over it during tissues, right? Okay, which one's voluntary? Skeletal muscle. I'm looking at you. Because you're like, what? Okay, so yeah, internal anatomy and organization. Organization, well, interatrial septum, super small septum, okay, and then interventricular septum, which is actually fairly large. Okay, and most of you, I'll give props to Ellen because she came up to me and asked, actually a couple of you did this, so I'll give, the people that came up and asked, the difference between the septum and the myocardium. Well, there is no difference. They're one and the same. The septum is made up of myocardium. Okay, so if we have our heart, okay, we come down like this, and then notice this one is a little bit more shallow. Oh, other way around. I'm sorry. This one comes all the way down like this, and then this one comes like that. Why do you think there's a difference? Yeah, there's more muscle. There's more muscle over here because we're forcing it out to the systemic circuit. Okay, then we come over and there's a valve here, a valve here, valve there, and a valve there. All right? And just so that you guys, like this, like that, like this, like that, right? You guys remember all of that? Okay? And then this guy, okay? Going to the lungs, and then we come back over here. Right? And what you don't see is that there's two more right here, and they're actually over here. And they connect. If I was to put dots, that's where they connect. Okay? So atrial septum is this right here. Okay? Ventricular septum is that. All right, and nasal septum is right in there. Everybody's heard of septum before, and if you haven't, it's just separating the right and the left, right? Nasal septum, atrial septum, ventricular septum. It's just separating the two. Now, why is this important? Because when we talk about the conduction system for the heart, guess what it's going to have? A line that it has to follow. And the line are the septums. It follows the septums. Okay? Now it says internal anatomy, atrioventricular valves. Valves. Okay? Now, if you're gonna actually take the easy way out, this is a AB valve, and this is an AV valve, okay? It just so happens that this one is a what? Left, and this one's a right, okay? So if you're gonna take the easy way out, and you're not gonna use the names that I'm gonna give you right now, and you're gonna say, oh, right and left AV valve, I got those, you need to spell them out without any mistakes. So if you're gonna take the easy way out, and you're gonna say, okay, I know that there's a right and a left, and I'm just gonna put AV there, I'll mark you wrong for the AV, but I'll mark you right if you spell it out. Atrioventricular. No letters misspelled, 100%. Okay, because if you don't, then what we want to do is we want to do this. Tricuspid and bicuspid. Okay, and this one has one more. Mitral valve, either way. All right? So you either use the valve names, or you use that with a right and a left. It's up to you. Now, this has try. Try means what? No, it means put more effort into it. Just wait for it to sink in for a second. It does mean 3. You guys are like, put more effort into it. What do you mean? Get it? Like, keep trying. Oh! All right. She dyes her hair brown. She's a blonde. I can say that because I'm blonde. Yeah, it has 3 flaps. It has 3 flaps. So tricuspid, 3 flaps. We come over here. Bicuspid has 2. Okay? Bicuspid 2, tricuspid 3. Mitral's just an additional name that they gave it because someone felt frisky and they're like, cool, let's add one more name to make it more difficult. Right? The way I always remember it is try with your right hand. Try with your right hand. Try on the right. Bi on the left. Try with your right hand. Tricuspid. How many people are left-handed in here? So it's a no-brainer. Okay? Everybody has their right hand that they use to write with, so it's right. Try on the right. Good. I always get the left-handers that are like, well, that's not fair. Okay, so connects the right atrium to the right ventricle and the left atrium to the left ventricle are folds of fibrous tissue that extend into the openings between the atrium and the ventricles, permit blood to flow in one direction. In other words, they are built so that the flow of blood will go down, gravity. If this squeezes, okay, they will close. These will actually close. Not by the squeezing, but by the pressure. Okay? Not by the squeezing, but by the pressure. Now, then we have the right atrium. It has the right atrium up above. It has the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinus. Okay, these superior receives blood from the head, neck, and upper limbs. Inferior, the rest of the body. Just think about it this way. Here's your heart. All right? Here's your heart right here. Here's your limbs. So, superior, everything above this line going in the superior. Inferior, everything from this point down going underneath. Okay? So, do we have those here? Yeah, we do. Superior, inferior vena cava. Okay? That says coronary sinus. Well, it's actually inside the atrium, so, they're talking about parts of the atrium. So right here in the atrium, there is the superior sinus that fills into that. And we'll talk about the superior sinus, or excuse me, the coronary sinus a little bit later. When we start talking about blood vessels of the heart and where things drain, we'll talk about that one. All right. So the foramen ovale before birth is an opening through the interatrial septum. all right? So literally, there's a hole right here. There's a hole before birth. Think about the logic. This should be an aha moment for most of you. Think about the logic. Does the fetus, does the baby inside of mom breathe air?
No.
No. No. So there is no need to go to the lungs because there's no air. It's getting everything it needs from mom, so blood's just circulating around. It's not until it pops out of mom that it does this. It's not until it pops out. Okay, once it seals, after birth, it forms the fossa ovalis. Wow, let's go back to bones. What is a foramen? A hole through bone, right? Well, it's a hole through the heart. What is a fossa? Shallow basin like depression. Right? So you can tell by the way that I taught you guys in 241 about bones how important all these markings are. Because they're not just used for bones, they're used for everything. So a fossa is a shallow basin-like depression, which is what's left over from this. Okay, we do monitor it because this does have to close, because if it doesn't, then there's a mixing of deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. That's what a heart murmur is. Right?
How long they would take to close?
It varies. Some, the literature I was reading about, literally some are between a week or two at the beginning, and some have taken as long as 6 months to heal. But the big thing that we have to watch out for is to make sure that they're not mixing the bloods, because then the baby's not perfusing properly. Okay, pectinate muscle. Pectinate muscle, well, contain prominent muscular ridges, okay, on the anterior atrial wall of the interior surface of the right auricle. Well, it's up inside of here, pectinate muscle. Okay? And as we take a closer look, actually, and I stand corrected, Ellen, didn't you point at trabeculae carnae down below? Or did I correct that on that? Trabeculae carnae. Did you have that down below or up above? When you came to me this morning and asked me the question. Okay. Pectinate muscle's right here. Trabeculae carnae is actually the muscle that's down below inside of the heart. Okay? So in the ventricles, it was you then, right? Okay. Did you have that down though, right? Okay. Pectinate muscles in the atria, okay, and the carne asada is down in the ventricles, okay? Really? You guys look like you've never heard of that before. Have you heard of that before? Have you heard that before? Have you guys heard that before? Okay, just making sure, because Linda, you're looking at me like, did he actually just say that? Okay, carne asada is a meat. It's a meat in Mexican food. Trabeculae carne, carne asada. Never mind. Oh my, you got it though. Thank you. Thank you.
I related with that.
Good. Maria, you got it too, didn't you? She's like, uh-huh. Good. Yeah. Trabeculae carne. It's the muscle found in the ventricles. The muscle found in the ventricles. See this image? Clearly I must like this image because, bam! Yeah, yeah. Can I say yeah? Yeah. In fact, this one is so awesome that I painted it on my daughter's bedroom's wall. It's phenomenal. Like, she's gonna wake up and be like, heart. She's gonna know more about the heart than anybody. She'll probably be a heart surgeon when she gets older. Yeah. Beautiful image. Phenomenal. Any questions? Any questions? We didn't get as far as we wanted to today, but that's okay because, well, I had a lot of paperwork I had to get back to you guys. Any questions? See you tomorrow. Hold on.